Hi, Florette here with InOn3. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited to talk to you today about the new stamp set. It's a collaboration between Crafty Meraki and InOn3, and we're celebrating Meraki Crafttober and Diwali. So we're going to do a little no-line coloring and create a really fun card together step by step. So let's get started and get your ink on. To create an A2 size card using the Shine Bright stamp set. I've already gone ahead and cut a panel that is 5¼ by 4 inches, and I put that over the top and laid a die that's a little bit smaller than that over that to create a frame. So we're basically making a card that you're going to see the inside from the outside, so it's like a little window card, and it's really cute. And I used some purple tape, and you can see I peeled a little up, but no worries, I can always flip that frame over to use it later. But you can see now we've got all our pieces, we've got 3 pieces cut. So we have a frame, an inside panel, and a window. And this will make a lot more sense to you a little later on when we use all the pieces and put them all together. So I'm going to start out with the stencil. This is the wavy stencil from InOn3, and I just taped it on with, again, some purple tape, and you've got a little sneak peek here of something new to come, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm going to start off and use some peacock blue and go from the bottom up. I'm going to do a really nice ombre of 3 different colors. I'm using a light touch to get like a lighter color and then a little heavier touch to get the darker colors. And then I realize I'm getting some ink on my fingers, so I grab a piece of scratch paper. I usually like to do that when I'm doing a stencil and some inking. That way I can slide my hand around without getting any ink on my fingers, and that makes it less likely for me to put fingerprints on my card that I'm working on. And you can see there was that sneak peek again, and we have another little sneak peek here. So I'm going to take some more Atelier Artist Grade Fusion ink and do some blending. It's a great ink for blending because it's buttery smooth. You can get a wide variety of colors out of it. And oh, there's my favorite part, the big reveal. I'm going to wipe off my workstation. I'm also going to wipe off my hands. My light is a little bright, so that top color is looking a lot lighter than it actually is. And you'll see when my hand goes in front of it and it blocks some of the light, it's just a really beautiful bright color. So I decided I want to have this a little bit softer. I don't want that contrast. Sometimes the contrast from the white to the color is really awesome, but for this I wanted to mute it a little bit. So what I like to do is once I take my stencil off, I'll take the same colors I used on the top of the stencil and then put it where the stencil covered up on the white, and I cover that white with a little more of the color so I get a softer tone, and you can see I get this really beautiful ombre with all the different shades. Let's get to the stamping, one of our favorite things, so that we can do some no-line coloring. I earlier stamped out a couple masks using some Masking Magic paper, and I cut those out so that I can take these 3 lotus blooms and layer them on top of each other. And you can see I have the first masking stamp on there, and the one that you want to have in front is the one you're going to mask. So then I take the bigger stamp and I stamp that over the mask. Then I'm going to position my smaller stamp, the one that I want in front, over the mask so that I line it up just how I'd like it. I remove the mask. I'm inking it up with the Fadeout No Line Coloring ink. That's our magical ink for no line coloring. It really does make the process so much easier and so much more fun. There are other ways to mask. This is just the way I do it sometimes. So now we're going to do some no line coloring. And what's amazing about the Fadeout No Line Coloring ink is the lines are going to become the color that we lay on top. So, and you can stamp it once and you'll have a lighter tone of the ink. You can stamp it multiple times. The more you stamp it, the darker it will get. But the ink will react the same way, and you're going to have this beautiful piece that looks like you are the artist, that you hand drew it or painted it. It's just amazing because it will no longer look like a stamp. But the fade out ink makes it easy and accessible for everyone to do, and that's why I'm showing you step by step how to do it. So the first step that I usually take is I'll figure out where I want my darkest part, and I will take the ink and line it, almost tracing the lines, and I leave some places open and some places I put the ink, and that will give me lighter and darker shades in different areas. One of the biggest tips I can give is always use a lot less water than you would think. Your brush tip should be barely moist. It's almost a dry brush. It's just damp to the touch. And you'll see I also have an ink off cloth next to me, and I use that to take water off the tip of my brush all the time, because I'll dip into the water and then I'll dry it off a little bit on my ink off cloth. Then I'll go into the ink to grab some of that. Sometimes you'll see me dip into the water to clean off my brush, dip onto the ink off cloth, and then go onto the ink and blend it out so that I get the different shades. I'm pulling the darker color away into the lighter color, and that's giving me the variation from dark to light. I took out some of the footage because I'm redoing each petal the same way throughout. So I thought we could save a little bit of time with that. But don't worry, I have a couple more examples on how this is done. But you can see I'm basically tracing, and then I'm going into the nooks and crannies, the little areas where the petals touch one another. You're going to have a little darker area there. And look how beautiful that flower looks. Now I'm going to grab the masks again, and what's nice is I can reuse these masks. A lot of times I'll put them in the folder with the stamps. So here I'm grabbing 2 of them, and then I'm just going to add the stem to the bud there. So I'm looking for my fade out ink. Oh, there it is. I'm going to dab a little on just the tip of the stem and put that down, and then remove those masks and paint in that little stem with the Goddess Green Atelier. What I love about Atelier is it's very forgiving. You can put some on, add a little water, take some off, so you have a lot of working time, and also you can correct anything that you want to correct by adding water and then dabbing it off. We're going to move on to the butterfly, but I did want to mention when I am doing no line coloring, I'll map out my darker areas first, but then I'm actually going to do everything in a lighter tone and then come back and add darker into the little nooks and crannies. I usually like to let it dry a little bit before I add the next layer. And what's amazing about Atelier is you can continue to layer upon layer. You can change the colors, you can make the colors darker, because Atelier is semi-opaque. So you can layer colors, but the magical part of it is it stays bright and pretty. It does not get chalky looking. It stays true to color, and you'll see even when this is dry, it's going to be this bright, pretty color. It's not going to have any cloudiness to it. It's just going to stay so beautiful, but I can rework and work it. Now you can see I've colored in this butterfly really quickly. It was very easy, and I'm going to take a pen and color in the body, but I want to dry it here because I'm going to add another layer on top. So that's kind of where I like to dry it before I go to the next layer. In the Shine Bright stamp set, there's a nice piece for the butterfly. It's the inside of the butterfly, so you can use it or not use it either way. I liked it just how we had it, but I really wanted to give this one a little more detail. I want to keep a painterly look on it, so I'm going to take my ink and dab it on, and then I'm going to take a piece of paper because I want it to be a little lighter and dab that, add a little water, and that's going to give me a little bit more of a watercolory, lighter look. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? I think it is so pretty with the design on the inside. So I'm going to blend it in just a little more to give it a little bit more of a watercolor look rather than a stamped look. So I just ran across the lines, and you can see how nicely that all blends together. I really love how easy it is. This stamp set has so many fun elements. I can't wait to make more cards with it because it really is so fun and it's so pretty. So I'm going to dry it a little bit, and then I added in the black just using a pen, a dark pen, and then I'm going to add some little details with a white gel pen as well and let that dry. So I also wanted to show you how easy it is to watercolor or no line color with watercolors this teeny tiny little image. Normally something this tiny would be almost impossible to no line color, but with Fade Out no line coloring ink it makes it possible and super easy. I literally just go over the entire image and the lines become the color that I lay on top, and you can see almost like a little bit darker version of it, so I don't have to worry about losing those details. I can color tiny little images with lots of detail very, very easily. And you'll see in a little bit the detail a little bit better. Again, like my lights are very bright and so you can't see it, but when I cut it out, you're gonna see there's a little candle inside, and I'm just going over with a little of the twiggy brown now just to add a little shadow around the bottom, and it's just glowing, and I can't wait till you see it all finished. But you can see how quickly and easily it was to create this little lantern with no line color. It always amazes me when I can do a tiny little image like this so easily. So here you can see it a little better. I'm going to just blend it out a little bit because I really want it to glow. And here, look at that. Look at all that detail. And I literally just ran the atelier right over it, and it just made the most adorable little lantern. We'll have all the details and links to all the products in the description below, so make sure you check there. And also make sure you subscribe to our channel. Hit the subscribe button. That would be really great. Love to see you. And we're always creating new fun projects with all these great crafty goodies. So here I'm going to take the strand of lights from the Shine Bright collaboration stamp set with Crafty Meraki, and I'm adding some Juicy embossing ink and some Gold Rush ultrafine embossing powder. And what I love about this ultrafine embossing powder and the Juicy is that I get a great impression every time. The embossing powder doesn't have any fillers, and you're going to see how quickly and smoothly it melts. Like, look at this. Oh my gosh, look at that magic. I just love embossing because it's like a magical thing where you get this beautiful gold or whatever color you're using. It just always amazes me. I mentioned the Gold Rush embossing powder, but I also wanted to mention our Juicy embossing and watermark ink is really fantastic because it is, for one, it's very juicy, so it really gets your stamp on there nice and quickly, but it also is great for detailed images because the pad is very firm, so it doesn't squish down into all those nooks and crannies, and you get a really crisp, nice image. Notice I'm using the Misti Stamping Positioner, my favorite tool. It's really fantastic because I can take these sentiments and just barely kiss it down so that I get a nice crisp impression. I know myself, a lot of times when I use a stamping block, I will push too hard. But with the Misti, I really have a lot more control. Oh my gosh, look at that gold, and look how quickly that melted. So now I'm going to put it back into the Misti again and grab the other part of my stamp sentiment. It's the May Your Light, and I'm going to stamp that in the Blackout Detail ink. The Blackout Detail ink is really great because it is waterproof, it's Copic friendly, and it gives you a really dark black impression. Look at that. One time, even on vellum, it gave me a really crisp image. And there I'm just cleaning it off with a little ink off cleaner and the ink off cloth, and I go from a dark color and I get a beautiful clean stamp with the ink off cleaner. So now I'm moving on to our frame. You're probably wondering what I was doing. Well, I am taking the Juicy embossing ink and I am just dabbing it all over the frame because I want to have this really pretty gold leaf look. It gives you that gold leaf without all the fuss. So I can just put it on. After I put the Juicy, I sprinkle it on, and then I'm going to melt it, and you can again see how quickly this melts, and it's going to give me this super cool gold leaf effect. So it almost looks like metal. How fun is that? And I just took some liquid glue and put it on there and adhered it to the front of our card. I really want to make sure I don't get any fingerprints all over my card, so I use my ink off cloth again just to pat it down and get it nice and flat. Then I'm going to take my panel that we made earlier, and you'll notice actually I lost a little of the footage, but I spritzed it with water, our panel, and dabbed it off because the ink is water reactive, and I got this really cool background. So now I'm just going to take a little glue dot runner and adhere a little piece of vellum that I cut out the same size, and then I'm going to use my frame to line it up in the center so that when I open my card it's directly in the center, that nice panel that we just put together. You can see I've brought back all the other pieces that we no line colored earlier, and I'm just figuring out where I'm going to put everything, and then I'm just going to use a little liquid glue on my little lantern, and I cut that out with just some scissors, did some fussy cutting, and an X-Acto knife for the little pieces in the chain. And then I put on some foam squares onto my lotus flowers, and I'm going to put those right above the sentiment. And then I'm just figuring out where I'm going to place my butterfly, and look at that. Oh my gosh, I love this card. I just think it's so elegant and so festive. You can leave it as is, but I like that extra little bit of bling, so I'm going to add some liquid pixie dust, my favorite magical shimmer. I just shake it up, and you can put liquid pixie dust in the water brush pen that I'm using and just have it on the ready all the time, or you can drop a little on your mat and dip into it like you would paint. But sometimes I'll actually just take the bottle and dip right into it and paint right on my image. And you can see here what's really awesome is not only is it a magical shimmer, but it is not moving all that painting that I did around. It's everything staying in place, and it's just getting this magical shimmer. And it also does not change the color because it picks up whatever color it's on top. And look at that, and you'll see the shimmer in just a minute, and you can see all the goodies that we used. Look at that shimmer. Oh my gosh, this card was so fun. Thank you for joining me. Please check out the links below and Crafty Meraki site. You can grab the stamp there or here to get them. Thanks, bye-bye. See you next time.